Excerpt from Nature by Ralph Waldo Emerson. Ralph Waldo Emerson, perhaps best known for his essay Self-Reliance, was one of America's most influential thinkers and writers. After graduating from Harvard Divinity School, he followed 9 generations of his family into the ministry, but practiced for only a few years. Known as a great orator, Emerson made his living as a popular lecturer on a wide range of topics. From 1821 to 1826, he taught in city and county schools, and later served on a number of school boards, including the Concord School Committee and the Board of Overseers of Harvard College. Central to Emerson's thought is recognizing the spiritual relationship between humans and the natural world. In 1836, he and other like-minded intellectuals, including Henry David Thoreau, founded the Transcendental Club, and that same year he published his influential essay Nature, the first 3 chapters of which are included here. 1. Nature. To go into solitude, a man needs to retire as much from his chambers as from society. I am not solitary whilst I read and write, though nobody is with me. But if a man would be alone, let him look at the stars. The rays that come from these heavenly worlds will separate between him and what he touches. One might think the atmosphere was made transparent with his design, to give man in the heavenly bodies the perpetual presence of the sublime. Seen in the streets of cities, how great they are. If the stars should appear one night in 1,000 years, how would men believe and adore, and preserve for many generations the remembrance of the city of God, which had been shown? But every night come out these envoys of beauty, and light the universe with their admonishing smile. The stars awaken a certain reverence, because, though always present, they are inaccessible. But all natural objects make a kindred impression, when the mind is open to their influence. Nature never wears a mean appearance. Neither does the wisest man extort her secrets, and lose his curiosity by finding out all of her perfection. Nature never becomes a toy to a wise spirit. The flowers, the animals, the mountains reflected the wisdom of his best hour, as much as they had delighted the simplicity of his childhood. When we speak of nature in this manner, we have a distinct but most poetical sense in the mind. We mean the integrity of impression made by manifold natural objects. It is this which distinguishes the stick of timber of the woodcutter from the tree of the poet. The charming landscape which I saw this morning is indubitably made up of some 20 or 30 farms. Miller owns this field, Locke that, and Manning the woodland beyond. But none of them owns the landscape. There is a property in the horizon which no man has but he whose eyes can integrate all the parts, that is, the poet. This is the best part of these men's farms, yet to this their warranty deeds give no title. To speak truly, few adult persons can see nature. Most persons do not see the sun. At least they have a very superficial seeing. The sun illuminates only the eye of the man, but shines into the eye and the heart of the child. The lover of nature is he whose inward and outward senses are still truly adjusted to each other, who has retained the spirit of infancy even in the era of manhood. His intercourse with heaven and earth becomes part of his daily food. In the presence of nature, a wild delight runs through the man, in spite of real sorrows. Nature says, "He is my creature, and maugre, and all his impertinent gifts he shall be glad with me." Not the sun or the summer alone, but every hour and season yields its troubles of delight. For every hour and change corresponds to and authorizes a different state of mind, from breathless noon to grimmest midnight. Nature is a setting that fits equally well a comic or a morning piece. In good health, the air is a cordial of incredible virtue, crossing a bare common in snow puddles, at twilight under a clouded sky, without having in my thoughts any occurrence of special good fortune. I have enjoyed a perfect exhilaration. I am glad to the brink of fear. In the woods, too, a man casts off his years, as a snake his slough, and at what period, sober of life, is what always a child. In the woods is perpetual youth. Within these plantations of God, a decorum and sanctity reign. A perennial festival is dressed, and the guest sees not how he should tire of them in 1,000 years. In the woods we return to reason and faith. There I feel that nothing can befall me in life, no disgrace, no calamity leaving me my eyes, which nature could not repair. Standing on the bare ground, my head bathed by the blithe air, and uplifted into infinite space, all mean egotism vanishes. I become a transparent eyeball. I am nothing. I see all. The currents of the universal being circulate throughout me. I am part or particle of God. The names of the nearest friends sounds then foreign and accidental. To be brothers, to be acquaintances, master or servant, is then a trifle and a disturbance. I am the lover of uncontained and immortal beauty. In the wilderness, I find something more dear and connate than in streets or villages. In the tranquil landscape, and especially in the distant line of the horizon, man beholds somewhat as beautiful as his own nature. The greatest delight which the fields and woods minister is a suggestion of an occult relation between man and the vegetable. I am not alone and unacknowledged. They nod to me, and I to them. The wavings of the boughs in the storm is new to me and old. It takes me by surprise, and yet is not unknown. Its effect is like that of a higher thought, or of a better emotion coming over me, when I deemed I was thinking justly or doing right. Yet it is certain that the power to produce this delight does not reside in nature, but in man, or in harmony of both. It is necessary to use these pleasures with great temperance, for nature is not always tricked in holiday attire, but the same scene which yesterday breathed perfume and glittered as for the frolic of the nymphs is overspread with melancholy today. Nature always wears the colors of the spirit. To a man laboring under calamity, the heat of his own fire hath sadness in it. Then there is a kind of contempt for the landscape felt by him, who has just lost by death a dear friend. The sky is less grand, as it shuts down over less worth in the population. 2. Commodity. Whoever considers the final cause of the world will discern a multitude of uses that enter as parts into that result. They all admit of being thrown into one of the following classes: commodity, beauty, language, and discipline. Under the general name of commodity, I rank all those advantages which our senses owe to nature. This, of course, is a benefit which is temporary and mediate, not ultimate, like its service to the soul. Yet, although low, it is perfect in its kind, and is the only use of nature which all men apprehend. The misery of man appears like childish petulance when we explore the steady and prodigal provisions that has been made for his support and delight on the green ball which floats him through the heavens. What angels invented these splendid ornaments, these rich conveniences, this ocean of air above, this ocean of water beneath, this firmament of earth between, this zodiac of lights, this tents of dropping clouds, this striped coat of climates, this fourfold year. Beasts, fire, water, stones, and corn serve him. The fields is at once his floor, his workyard, his playground, his garden, and his bed. More servants wait on man than he'll take notice of. Nature in its ministry to man is not only the material, but also the process and the result. All the parts incessantly work into each other's hands for the profit of man. The wind sows the seeds, the sun evaporates the sea, the wind blows on the vapor to the field, and the ice, on the other hand, of the planet, condenses rain on this. The rain feeds the plant feeds the animals, and thus the endless circulation of the divine charity nourish man. The useful arts are reproductions or new combinations by the wit of man of the same natural benefactors. He no longer waits for favoring gales, but by means of steam he realizes the fable of Aeolus' bag, and carries the 32 winds into the boiler of his boat. To diminish friction, he paves the road with iron bars, and mounting a coach with a shipload of men, animals, and merchandise behind him, he darts through the country, from town to town like an eagle or a swallow through the air. By the aggregate of these aids, how is the face of the world changed, from the era of Noah to that of Napoleon? The private poor man hath cities, ships, canals, bridges built for him. He goes to the post office, and the human race runs on his errands. To the bookshop, and the human race read and write all the habits for him. To the courthouse, and nations repair his wrongs. He sets his house upon the road, and the human race go forth every morning, and shovel out the snow, and cut a path for him. There is no need of specifying particulars in this class of uses. The catalogue is endless, and the examples so obvious, that I shall leave them to the reader's reflection, with that general remark that this mercenary benefit is one which has respect to a farther good. A man is fed, not that he may be fed, but that he may work. 3. Beauty. A nobler want of man is served by nature, namely the love of beauty. The ancient Greek word called the world cosmos, beauty. Such is the constitution of all things, or such the plastic power of the human eye, that the primary forms as the sky, the mountain, the trees, the animal, give us delight in and for themselves, a pleasure arising from outline, color, motion, and grouping. This seems particularly owing to the eye itself. The eye is the best of artists. By the mutual action of its structure and the laws of light, perspective is produced, which integrates every mass of objects, of what character soever, into a wall-colored and shaded globe, so that where the particular objects are mean and unaffecting, The landscape which they compose is round and symmetrical. And as the eye is the best composer, so light is the first of painters. There is no object so foul that intense light will not make beautiful, and the stimulus it affords to the sense, and the sort of infinitude which it hath, like space and time, make all matter gay. Even the corpse has its own beauty. But besides the general grace diffused over nature, almost all the individual forms are agreeable to the eye, as is proved by our endless limitation of some of them, as the acorn, the grape, the pine cone, the wheat ear, the egg, the wings and forms of most birds, the lion claw, the serpent, the butterfly, seashells, flames, clouds, buds, leaves, and the forms of many trees, as the palm. For better consideration, we may distribute the aspect of beauty in a threefold manner. First, the simple perception of natural forms as a delight. The influence of the form and action in nature is so needful to man that in its lowest functions it seems to lie on the confines of commodity and beauty. To the body and mind, which have been cramped by noxious work or company, nature is medicinal and restores their tone. The tradesman, the attorney, comes out of the din and craft of the street, and sees the sky and the woods, and is a man again. In their eternal calm he finds himself. The health of the eye seems to demand a horizon. We are never tired so long as we can see far enough. But in other hours, nature satisfies by its loveliness and without any mixture of corporal benefits. I see the spectacle of morning from the hilltop over against my house, from daybreak to sunrise, which emotions which an angel might share. The long slender bars of cloud float like fishes in the sea of crimson light. From the earth as the shore, I look out into the silent sea. I seem to partake its rapid transformations. To active enchantment reaches my dust, and I dilate and conspire with the morning wind. How does nature deify us with a few and cheap allotments? Give me health and a day, and I will make the pomp of emperors ridiculous. The dawn is my Assyria, the sunset and moonrise my Paphos, and unimaginable realms of fairy. Broad noon shall be my England of the senses and the understanding. The night shall be my Germany of mystic philosophy and dreams. Not less excellent, except for our less accessibility of the afternoon, was the charm last evening of a January sunset. The western clouds divided and subdivided themselves into pink flakes, modulated with tints of unspeakable softness, and the air had so much life and sweetness that it was a pain to come within doors. What was it that nature would say? Was there no meaning in the live repose of the valley behind the mill, in which Homer or Shakespeare could not reform for me in words? The leafless trees become spires of flames in the sunset, with the blue east for their background, and the stars of the dead and calyces of flowers. And every withered stem and stubble rhymed with frost, contributes something to the mute music. The inhabitants of cities suppose that the country's landscapes is pleasant only half the year. I please myself with the graces of the winter scenery, and believe we are as much touched by it as by the genial influences of summer. To the attentive eye, each moment of the year has its own beauty, and in the same field it beholds, every hour, a picture which was never seen before, and which shall never be seen again. The heavens change every moment, and reflect their glory or gloom on the plains beneath. The state of the crop is the surrounding farms, alters the expression of the earth from week to week. The succession of native plants into pastures and roadsides, which makes the silent clock by which time tells the summer hours, will make even the divisions of the day sensible to a keen observer. The tribes of birds and insects, like the plants punctual to their time, follow each other, and the year has room for all. By watercourses the variety is greater. In July, the blue pointidaria or pickled weed bloom in large beds in the shallow parts of the pleasant river, and swarms with yellow butterflies in continual motion. Art could not rival this pomp of purple and gold. Indeed, the river is a perpetual gala, and boasts each month a new ornament. But this beauty of nature, which is seen and felt as beauty, is the least part. The shows of day, the dewy mornings, the rainbow, mountains, orchards in blossom, stars, moonlight, shadows in still water, and the like, if too eagerly hunted, become shows merely, and mock us with their unreality. Go out of the house to see the moon, and 'tis mere tinsel. It will not please as when its light shines upon your necessary journey. The beauty that shimmers in the yellow afternoons of October, who would ever clutch it? Go forth and find it, and it's gone. It is only a mirage, as you look from a window of diligence. The presence of a higher, namely of the spiritual element, is essential to its perfection. The high and divine beauty which can be loved without effeminacy is that which is found in combination with the human will. Beauty is the mark God sets upon virtue. Every natural action is graceful. Every heroic action is also decent, and causes the place in the bystander to shine. We are taught by great actions that the universe is the property of of every individual in it. Every rational creature has all nature for his dowry and estate. It is his if he will. He may divest himself of it. He may creep into a corner and abdicate his kingdom, as most men do, but he is entitled to the world by his constitution. In proportion to the energy of his thought and will, he takes up the world into himself. All those things for which men plow, build or sail, obey virtue, says Sallust. The wind and waves, said Gibbon, are always on the side of the ablest navigator. So are the sun and the moon, and all the stars of the heavens. When a noble act is done, perchance in a scene of great natural beauty, when Leonidas and his 300 martyrs consume one day in dying, and the sun and moon come each other and look at them once in the steep defile of Thermopylae, when Arnold Winkelried in the high Alps, under the shadow of the avalanches, gathers in his side a sheaf of Austrian spears to break the line for his comrades, are not these heroes entitled to add the beauty of the scene to the beauty of the deed? When the bark of Columbus nears the shores of America, before it the beach is lined with savages, fleeing out all of their huts of cane, the sea behind, and the purple mountains of the Indian archipelago around, can we separate the man from the living picture? Does not the New World cloth his form with palm groves and savannas as fit drapery? Ever does natural beauty steal in like air and envelope great actions. When Sir Harry Vane was dragged up to Tower Hill, sitting on a sled, to suffer death as a champion of English laws, one of the multitude cried out to him, "You never sate on such a glorious seat." Charles II, to intimidate the citizens of London, caused the patriot Lord Russell to be drawn in an open coach through his principal streets of the city on his way to the scaffold. But, his biographer says, the multitude imagined they saw liberty and virtue sitting by his side. In private places, among sordid objects, an act of truth or heroism seems at once to draw to itself the sky as its temple, the sun as its candle. Nature stretcheth out her arms to embrace man, only let his thoughts be of equal greatness. Willingly does she follow his steps, with the rose and the violet, and bend her lines of grandeur and grace to the decoration of her darling child. Only let his thoughts be of equal scope, and the frame will suit the picture. A virtuous man is in unison with her works, and makes her the central figure of the visible sphere. Homer, Pindar, Socrates, Phocion associate themselves fitly in our memory with the geography and climate of Greece. The visible heavens and earth sympathize with Jesus, and in common life whosoever has seen a person of powerful character and happy genius will have remarked how easily he took all the things along with him, the persons, the opinions, and the day, and nature become ancillary to man. 3. There is still another aspect under which the beauty of the world may be viewed, namely, as it becomes an object of the intellect. Besides the relation of things to virtue, they have a relation to thought. The intellect searches out the absolute order of things as they stand in the mind of God, and without the colors or affection, the intellectual and the active powers seem to succeed each other, and the exclusive activity of the one generates the exclusive activity of the other. There is something unfriendly in each of the others, but they are like the alternative. Periods of feeling and working in animals, each prepares will be followed by the other. Therefore does beauty which, in relation to actions, as we have seen, come unsought, and come because it is unsought, remain for the apprehension and pursuit of the intellect, and then again, in its turn, of the active power. Nothing divine dies. All good is eternally reproductive. The beauty of nature reforms itself in the mind, and not for barren contemplation, but for new creation. All men are in some degree impressed by the face of the world, some men even to delight. This love of beauty is taste. Others have the same love in such excess that, not content with admiring, they seek to embody it in new forms. The creation of beauty is art. The production of a work of art throws a light upon the mystery of humanity. A work of art is an abstract or epitome of the world, as the result of expression of nature in miniature. For, although the works of nature are innumerable and all different, the results of the expression of them are all as similar as it's single. Nature is a sea of forms, radically alike and even unique. A leaf, a sunbeam, a landscape, the ocean, make an analogous impression on the mind. What is common to them all, the perfectness and harmony, is beauty. The standard of beauty is the entire circuit of natural forms, the totality of nature, which the Italians expressed by defining beauty, il più nel uno. Nothing is quite beautiful alone. Nothing but is beautiful in the whole. A single object is only so far beautiful as it suggests this universal grace. The poet, the painter, the sculptor, the musician, the architect seek each to concentrate this radiance of the world on one point, and each in his several work to satisfy the love of beauty which stimulates him to produce. Thus is art, and nature pass through the alembic of man. Thus in art does nature work through the will of man, filled with the beauty of her first works. The world thus exists to the soul to satisfy the desire of beauty. This element I call an ultimate end. No reason can be asked or given why the soul seeks beauty. Beauty, in its largest and profoundest sense, is one expression for the universe. God is the all-fair truth. God is the all-fair. Truth and goodness and beauty are but different faces of the same all. But beauty in nature is not ultimate. It is the herald of inward and eternal beauty, and is not alone a solid and satisfactory good. It must stand as a part, and not as yet the last or highest expression of the final cause of nature.